They say the game ends when the lights shut off.
I didn't get drafted, I was a failure.
When the crowd stops cheering.
So it's almost like you're letting down a whole community of people that literally had your back, right? So my plan A, plan B, and plan C was baseball.
You can hang the cleats up.
Plan D.
And plan D was baseball.
And you finally put the equipment away for the last time.
I feel like I'm mentally unemployable. Like, I don't want to be told what to do. I have to go in somewhere, be able to make my own schedule, because that's what I thought I was going to do. I thought I was going to get paid for playing the game.
But for us, that's just where the beginning starts.
It's a hard thing when you realize, like, wow, like, this isn't my future anymore.
Welcome back to Life After Baseball. I'm your host, JP.
I'm Chris Campbell.
And this is the only show that highlights former athletes, specifically former baseball players who had dreams to play professional baseball, and those dreams ended up as a dream deferred. But they took the lessons that they learned and everything that the game taught them as far as characteristics, discipline, work ethic, and all of those things that are intangible that the sport teaches you, and brought it to the business world. And for today, we're going to have our first interviewee, and we're going to have my boy Chris introduce our first interviewee. So Chris, let's get right into it. Who we got today?
So for our first guest, we got Zac Candelaria. Zac, I appreciate you for
my boy
showing
Zac
up today. So let's give
a little round of applause for my boy Zac.
No, I appreciate you guys having me on. Honestly, this is special. So as soon as you guys hit me, of course, I was very excited to get on this podcast. So
love it.
I appreciate that.
For sure. So Zac, so talk to us a little bit, right? Tell us who you are, what you do, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm an attorney, entrepreneur, new into the entrepreneurial world. But yeah, I've been practicing law for 4 years now. I'm a commercial litigator. Okay. So essentially what a commercial litigator is, I handle legal disputes for businesses dealing with business transactions.
Okay.
So it could be a bunch of different matters, but that's pretty much my specialty right now. And it's a crazy life, but I do love it.
Nice. Now, you say that you do love it. So we're going to switch the conversation into something that I can think would be your first love, which would be, where does the story with Zac and baseball start? What was your first memory? Where did everything start for you?
100%. So for me, first love, no doubt about that. I'm sure that's the same for you guys too.
For sure.
It still runs with me today, that love. So it started when I was very young. I was 3 or 4 years old. It was a family game for us. So my uncle, Zac Candelaria, he played in the big leagues for 19 years.
I was going to say, that name sounded familiar. I was like, Candelaria. I was like, isn't that the Candy Man?
Yeah, the Candy Man.
That's
and then I carried the name later on because people would call me Candy. Not Candy Man, but they would just call me Candy.
Right.
But yeah, so the love started very young. I was only 3 or 4 years old when my father put a bat in my hands. And sure enough, that was the start of the journey for, coming to a love with baseball. But yeah, I got it from my uncle. He had a long career, played with a lot of different teams. He won a World Series, threw a no-hitter, had an all-star appearance. So he had a really long career. And it's special because, carrying the name on the back of a jersey, it was something special for me. So at a very young age, I started wearing his number, 45. Okay. And just carried it with me. So that was the start of the journey, was through my father and my uncle, who put the bat in my hands and got me started in my love for baseball.
Would you say that your uncle was your biggest influence as far as the game is concerned? Since, you say that carrying that name and all of that really did mean, a lot to you.
I would say 100%. And I think because I started at a very young age, I wasn't really watching too much baseball, or I didn't have like somebody I was looking up to on the Yankees or any other team in MLB specifically. But it's hard because when you're so young and you're told, that your uncle is this, big time figure in the sport, you're like, of course, that's going to be the first person that I look up to.
Right.
So I would say, he was definitely the biggest influence for me and what I looked up to when I started playing the game.
How was that coming up, like that, like atmosphere, that household, right? Because like someone like myself, like and my mom just threw me in sports, and I just found baseball. But you literally got handed a bat at 3 and 4 years old. So like, how was that household, growing up, being the fact that like you had an uncle or like a family that was already in, that high level of baseball?
I think it was easy at that point because the expectation wasn't there. It was just like, hey, you're built to do this. Yeah. You're born for this. So I think it was like almost like a genetic trait. My dad played D2 baseball. So he also had a love for the game as well. So I think it was pretty easy because it was a seamless transition. You know, I also grew up on Staten Island, New York, and in Staten Island, like the sport is baseball. Everyone loves, everyone loves baseball on Staten Island. So I think it was easy because even the guys that I was growing up around, they loved baseball. So it was like an easy transition just to get right into it. And, you know, I don't think the expectation was there. It was just, you know, the standard at that point.
Got it. Now, let's go. We're going to fast forward a little bit and kind of take us on that journey of, you know, the first time you remember stepping onto a field, your first team, you know, how old were you when you know, got exposed to it, whether if it was playing T-ball, you know, low little farm ball and everything like that, you know, where did you start from with that? And, you know, how did you get to your position, you know?
So I started playing like, you know, kind of like most of us do, I think at least. You know, I was playing T-ball, which is just like, you know, the start for most people.
Right.
But then, you know, I played in my local Little League and it was a competitive Little League because like I just said, Staten Island, there was a lot of good players. The dads took it very serious.
Those are the dangerous ones.
Yeah, well, yes, 100%. And I think so. That was like the start, just playing in like a local Little League. But then I think the first time that I played like high level baseball was when I played in my first travel team. I was 13 years old.
Nice.
The team was called the Dynasty, and that was like my first experience playing outside of Staten Island, playing outside of a radius that was near my house.
Right.
So, you know, we played in local tournaments that were in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, some in Connecticut. So that was like the real start. You know, and I was a catcher. That was my position pretty much.
Started
pretty much like from when I was about 9 years old. So at the start of Little League, after T-ball, once I joined a Little League team, I'll never forget it. The coach basically looked around and was like, okay, so who wants to catch? And nobody.
That's the last position.
That's the last position. Everybody wants to be a shortstop. Everybody wants to wants to be a pitcher for sure. Or if you're going to play an outfield position, center field, it's definitely not going to be right field. That's like the last position.
That's a fact.
So yeah, I think for most people, they're like, I don't want to catch. So I just remember like instantly not even thinking anything about it. I just raised my hand. And I don't know what it was. Maybe it was because my uncle was a pitcher. And for me, I'm like, oh, you know, they're kind of synonymous because they go, it's the battery. So they go hand. Yeah, and exactly. And you're involved in every single play. So I think for me, I was like, yeah, I'll catch. And immediately they gave me the gear and the rest was history. You know, I never played another position. I mean, I obviously, obviously I dabbled, you know, they would put me out, you know, either at third base. Sometimes they'd put me in the outfield, but like the real position, everyone knew it was like, you're always behind the plate. So, and catchers are commodities. There's not many of them. It's like pitching.
True.
So it was, for me, there was no need to ever play another position because you didn't really have many catchers on the team at once.
No, you don't. And that's a really good point. Like, you know, that whole catching thing, like you are a commodity, you know, and especially when it comes to defensive catchers, you know, that is a big thing, especially, you know, with me being a pitcher and everything, we take it very serious when we have a catcher who we know I can spike my curveball,
right?
And I know that it's gonna stay in the vicinity with him there. That just provides, you know, a different level of like confidence that you know that, all right, with 2 strikes I can dirt this ball and I don't have to worry about it, you know, like, so that is I like that.
That was so important too. Like at a super young age, I would say when I was 14 and I was playing for youth service, I really learned the importance of being a defensive catcher. That came first. And I'll never forget when I was playing for youth service and they were training me in the winter as a catcher. That was like the first real training ground that I ever had behind the plate, where you were really focused on your defensive, your defensive ability. That came first. It was like, okay, the hitting, you know, we'll put that to the side as a catcher. This is very important and vital to the game. And, you know, I'll never forget it. We were playing in like this indoor basketball court, you know, wood floors somewhere in Brooklyn. I can't remember the school. I think it was somewhere in downtown Brooklyn. And the coaches that I had, Frank Rodriguez was a phenomenal coach. Definitely a legend. Former MLB player, had a nice long career as well. And George Navarrete, and I'll never forget, they would just hit ground balls and say, you're going to block this off wood floor. So get in your catcher position, and I'm just going to rip these, one hoppers at you, put your body in front of it. And that's exactly how I learned how to catch, was just don't be afraid of the ball. Put your body in front of it at all times. I learned my framing skills there. So that was like a big jump for me, was learning how to be a defensive catcher and really set the tone for my career as a player.
Yeah. So walk us through that time though, because I know because you mentioned youth service, right? I mean, that's one of the prominent, travel teams in New York. But that's when, even myself, you realize that, how competitive and how much harder that level is. So walk us through that, because I feel like that may be around the time where it's okay, you start to be I might have a future here because you're around such, talented players.
Yeah.
That was a big start. I'm glad that you asked that, because to take it back, I'll never forget, after I played that first year with the Dynasty, I told my father that I really wanted to take this game as far as I could, or play it at...
How old were you though?
I was 13. So I turned 14 when I was going in to play for youth service.
Okay.
So I was playing 14U with them. And I remember telling my dad, I'm like, I want to play for this team called Youth Service. They're all the way out in Brooklyn, kind of on the Queens border, in Canarsie in American Legion.
Literally.
And I live on Staten Island, all the way on the South Shore, so very close to New Jersey.
I know exactly.
And my dad, without skipping a beat, said, yeah, sure, I'll take you. Let's do it.
I love that.
So he said, I'm with you on this, and I'll make it happen for you if that's what you want, if you want to pursue that. And that was the start of why I chose youth service. And sure enough, the first time I went to try out, we had 40 or 50 players in a gym. They were like, yeah, I want to try out for youth service, because everyone knew at the time that youth service kind of set the standard for travel ball in the New York City area. Everyone knew those blue and yellow colors, and specifically those hats. They were
blue, yellow, and it looked like YSL. You never read it as youth service. You always saw YSL.
Exactly. So I remember that was an important moment in my life, because that was the real start of competition. Real competition, because there was so many players that were vying for a spot, on the team. And on a young travel team, 14U, you're not carrying a 30-man roster. You're only going to carry maybe 20 guys. So and even less.
Bullshit.
And even less.
Even when you said 20, I was like, that's a little.
Even less. It might be more 15.
If you have a deep bullpen and stuff like that,
Exactly. And those were the craziest training days. The training that they put us through.
PTSD. I get PTSD.
PTSD, hitting the ground balls that Frank Rodriguez used to hit off these wood floors to 14 and 15-year-olds. Made no sense. I
believe it, because you want to know something? I had the luck of playing under Frank Rodriguez too. Right. And even when I was training with him, we had a facility that had turf.
Right.
And even with turf, he is peppering that ball as hard as he can.
Yeah.
And his number one thing was he didn't want to see you flip your glove, and he wants you always attacking the ball and low. But with the way he hit the ball, the lower you got, you hear the so you there and you just no. So but you had to get used. So I could imagine a wooden floor. This man is hitting 90, 95. And if you never, for anybody who never got a chance to play around Frank or doesn't know Frank Rodriguez, Frank, even at his, older age, he's going to sit there and he's going to compete with you. He's not going to give you nothing easy. No. It's going to be something to where he's going to hit you hard line drives. It's going to be hard, in-game speed kind of thing. So I could imagine what you went through.
Well, they pushed the levels too at youth service. It was the standard. They weren't treating us like 14-year-olds. They were big leaguers. They were treating it almost business level. To say, if you want to take this game serious, it requires a lot out of you. So the training and the sprints that we used to do. If somebody,
my post game, you guys used to run after every game. The game used to be done, and they used to have to run the bases.
We used to do Indian runs after the games. We used to, and I even remember too, we would do IO after, infield, outfield. We used to do that after playing double headers to work on fundamentals. So youth service, to bring it all back, they really set the tone for me in a competitive nature that I'd never witnessed before in my life. And that was really the start where I was like, wow, there's so much more outside of the small radius that I was living in before joining this team.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, one thing that I also want to highlight is that you mentioned practicing in a gym.
Right.
And that's one thing that I feel like a lot of people don't realize when it comes to like Northeast baseball, when it's not
Absolutely.
down south, is that we have these colder
Yeah.
months, like winter, even the fall, where it's like we can't practice outside like in Texas and Florida. So now we're literally in a gym and we have to get resourceful with the limited resources that we have.
I mean, be realistic. If you want to be real about it, there's still times in March and April we're in the gym.
Freezing, yeah.
You are. Honestly, and that was the thing that I always used to say too. If you played baseball in New York City growing up and you wanted to play at a high level, you had to love the sport. Because I mean,
that's a good
to go out there in March and play outdoors in March, and you have a day where it's 45 degrees,
snowing,
and snowing, and if you're playing anywhere by the water, any open field, so you really have to love the game. To play it in New York City, especially too because we were playing with wood bat.
Yep.
So now, not only are we not dealing with the hot weather, but now we're playing with wood while everyone else that we're competing against is using aluminum.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it really set the standard as like, if you love the game in New York, you absolutely loved it.
And then to take it a step further, if you had a coach who was crazy, the whole team was getting to the field early and they were doing grounds work so that the other team, when they get there, the field is ready.
Yes.
So think about it. You thinking that the field is going to be, you can't play on it, everything is fine. Nah, you're not getting a day off. Coach is having you out there. We're raking the field and then we're going to wait for them to come so that we could play. So think about that. You're going to rake the entire field, the mound, the outfield, everything, and then lose.
No,
You're not taking that loss, and like that's something that people don't understand with Northeast baseball is just like, yo, you are bred different. Like we have to, half of our season is in a gym, and then we have literally a month and a half to really make it work and shine in high school.
It's nuts.
I'll never forget. We were playing once youth service at American Legion. It was February, the end of February, and it was like 30 degrees, and we were playing a full-blown game, a full speed. And I remember like some of the pitchers, because they can't grip the ball the same, they would bounce balls, and sometimes I couldn't get in front of it. Like I just couldn't because it was so bad. And I remember like George Navarrete, he was the coach at the time. He was the head coach, and he was yelling at me, for not getting in front of the ball. And I'll never forget the umpire saying, "Don't worry about it like that." We should not be playing baseball right now. So my father was there for that too. Shout out to my dad because he was there for every single game. Didn't matter.
Dope.
Yeah. So it was literally 30 degrees. And I remember my dad sitting in a chair with 2 signs so he could block off the wind.
Yeah.
And I remember getting back in the car and he would say, "It's crazy you guys are playing out there." But it builds character.
Absolutely.
It builds character.
Absolutely. Now, you spoke to us about your youth service days, and this is around 13 and 14 years old. So this, we can already consider that you're getting ready to go to high school.
Yep.
How well do you think that youth service prepared you for not only just going into high school and going into the tryout, but also talk to us about, how did baseball influence maybe your high school decision?
Yep.
Was it the deciding factor, or was it, did you make the decision just like any other regular person, like, oh, I genuinely like the school or something?
So I'm so glad that you asked because it was the reason for my decision. I went to Zavarian High School.
Okay.
It was in Brooklyn, New York, Bay Ridge. And the reason why I chose to go to Zavarian was for the baseball program.
And from Staten Island, you're going
from Staten Island.
That just shows the dedication,
Amen,
and the love for the game.
But just like he said, you have to love the game in New York City if you want to play it. Prime example.
Yep.
And I'll tell you, for anyone that doesn't know, so Staten Island to Brooklyn, although it's only like a 20-mile drive from where my house was to where the high school was, it took an hour and a half each way to get there because of traffic. So I used to commute with my mom. My mom worked in Brooklyn, New York, not too far from the high school. So I used to travel with her.
Yeah.
But it was an easy transition to go to high school because I went to the middle school inside Zavarian. So I was already familiar with the school.
Okay.
But I knew at the time when I was getting ready to go to high school, I was going to Zavarian, and it was specifically for the baseball program. It really did shape the decision for me. I mean, we had top tier talent. We had a pipeline. They recruited, starting 6th, 7th grade, where they would have guys ready to say, okay, when this junior and senior class graduates and moves on, we already have, you know, our 7th and 8th graders that will fill that spot and replace them. So it was already known, at least in the Catholic high school community, Xaverian was like always
top
tier, like always top 3 in the city without fail. And that was the reason why I chose to go there. So it really was the whole deciding factor for me to go to Xaverian was the baseball program.
Amazing. Now, do you think that your time and your training with youth service just before you walked in made the tryout when you got to Xaverian a breeze?
A breeze, completely. And there was a lot of other guys on my team at Xaverian that also had that same sort of training.
Okay.
Because they were coming from, you know, like I had some guys that played on the Bonnies, and the Bonnies was
another
team in Brooklyn that was like, you know, the rival for youth service. It was always youth service and the Bonnies.
The Grays.
College Point Stars.
Exactly. And the CP Stars. Exactly.
Sayo versus New York Grays.
And so the CP Stars. So we already had guys because Xaverian brought people in from Staten Island, Brooklyn, Queens, Bronx, like literally all the boroughs. We had players. So I think it was a breeze going into the tryouts because there was a lot of guys that were local that were going to the high school, but they weren't going to be able to compete on this team because if you're traveling from Queens, Bronx, Staten Island, it's for a reason. You know, you're not just going in there to just
for fun.
Play baseball. Like it's that's the standard there. So I think it was a breeze, and I think the competition was already at a high level,
right?
Because of, like I said, the recruitment process. It started at an early age, so it was a breeze, and I think it was exciting, honestly, because that was like the real start to feeling, feeling validated in how much time I had already put in with youth service and dynasty. So yeah.
So can you talk to us a little bit about, or a few times in high school that you remember like really stood out to you on the field, where it's like, wow, like this is like why I played the game, or this is why I've worked so hard for moments like this?
Yeah. So I think the overall experience, right? I don't think that there was one moment that I could pinpoint to say, oh, this is the reason why, or now I see it. I think it was the overall experience because all the players that I was playing with at the time, they were all really good.
Name some of those players. Sorry.
No. I mean, to name one, someone that I came into the high school with was Josh Palacios.
Oh, shout out to Josh
Palacios.
Yeah,
and he's in the MLB right now. So
Josh Palacios, he's a real one. He's obviously having a great career.
Yeah.
He's, made it to the bigs with the Blue Jays, the Nationals, Pirates. He had a nice, now he's with the White Sox. And his brother Richie too. He joined. He joined Xaverian a couple of years after. But yeah, Richie was playing. Was at Xaverian as well. A couple of years after we were there. But yeah, Josh Palacios was one name. Another name that comes to mind at the time I entered Xaverian was Elvin Soto. Elvin Soto was at the time in not even just in New York City, but nationally a ranked catcher, switch hitter, had crazy defensive ability. Kevin Martier. He got drafted, went to Maryland, had an excellent career at Maryland, had a nice career in the minor leagues as well, and now he's a hitting coach. Alex Bautista. He was another youth service guy, ended up playing AAA ball, Tony Nunez. So these are just like a few names of guys that, made it to the bigs. And to even put some context too on Xaverian, outside the guys that I played with, Pedro Piatto, former big leaguer, Rudy Lugo, also went to Xaverian High School. So, I mean, we had Rick Aguilera. So we had some really, amazing talent from the get-go. But yeah, those were some of the guys that I played with at Xaverian that were really good and had some really good careers after high school. So from 15 years old, my freshman year, I was already playing with high level, players consistently. And these are just the names that I'm mentioning of guys that got drafted or made it to the bigs. That's not even taking into consideration some of the other ball players that I played with that went to D1 schools or had really good careers at D2 or D3 schools. So, there's other names out there that, Charles Missiano, he was an excellent player. He played D1 ball, had a great career. So yeah, there was a lot of names. I mean, we were stacked.
And then like Cam said, can you talk to a moment or a couple moments in high school that really stood out, like you said, like he said, like, this is why I do it. This is why I love the sport, or, this is why it's baseball for me.
Yeah. So I remember my junior year when I was on varsity, I was playing for Coach Frank Del George. He was a former Division I coach. He coached D1 for over 25 years. So I was, and I had him as a high school coach. So I was blessed.
With the environment. I think the environment really shaped. You could tell your environment really shaped you a lot, from just being in a household full of big leaguers or baseball, to youth service, to the dynasty, to now being as a variant. I mean, it just shows a lot.
Law of proximity.
I was blessed to have some of the best coaches. I mean, like I said, my summer coach was Frank Rodriguez. He taught me a bunch. I mean, I can't ask for a better coach who played in the MLB. And some of the stuff that Frank did was, mind blowing. I've never seen anyone on I've never seen anyone, Frank. I've never seen anyone on the baseball field do what this man could. But yeah, I had Frank Del George as a coach. And he was treating our high school varsity team like a D1 program. You would walk into his office and he would have a depth chart. A literal depth chart of, and no, literally like a full blown depth chart. Nuts. You'd have catcher, at the top, you'd have Candelaria, and then you'd have the names underneath it for shortstop. Like, he had everything mapped out, starting rotation, who's number 1, 2, 3, who's our weekday guy, who's our weekend guy. So,
but this is why they were the way they were.
Yeah, and that's why and honestly, but I remember a moment where I said, okay, wow, I've arrived. And I think this set the tone. Was playing in this tournament. It was at Monroe High School. I don't know.
The Monroe tournament. Yes.
So the Monroe tournament was always played in the spring, like the start of spring. And that tournament honestly was special because that brought together the Catholic high school teams.
And the public school. Yup.
And that was like a start for me to say, oh wow, like New York City baseball is really, really good. Because that was a showcase where you could see all the top talent. You would see the talent from McClancy and Cardozo. You would see the talent from Xavier and Zavarian, and then it would all come together on the field. And I remember playing there, and you'd have reporters from like the New York Post. You would have sometimes. Yeah, you would also have MSG
varsity.
MSG varsity. Like, we used to have cameras on us post game. If you had a really good game post game, they would take you to the side. Oh, let's do an interview. And then the next day you would see yourself on the local news. With your name, position you played, talking about your performance of the game. That for me was an eye opener where I said, oh wow, this is, they do take it very serious. And the New York City talent at that time when we were playing was very special. I mean, there were so many kids that got drafted and played in that Monroe tournament. So I would say the Monroe tournament, to bring it all together, was the start, because that was my junior year. And that's when I was playing, with the best players in New York City at the time. So I would say that was a pivotal moment in my high school career where I was like, oh wow, okay, this is special.
Interesting.
Yeah. So junior,
no, go ahead.
So junior year, right? That's usually, as you know, like your most important year when it comes to baseball, because that's when scouts are starting to come to the scouts, right? Scouts, and you have the college coaches,
right? Yeah.
As well, when you're trying to make your decision to go into college. So like, how much did baseball influence your decision to go to school? Because I know sometimes that's what we look for. Like, we're not even so focused on the academic part. We're like, listen, where can I play? What's a good school I want to go to? I mean, there's so many factors. So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Who's in that position? Can I show up and just start playing tomorrow? That type of thing.
So it's funny because I just told you before that I chose my high school for baseball. College was the complete opposite. I chose my college for the school.
Wow.
Yeah.
I rarely hear that ever.
And I think it probably came from, most travel coaches, or at least, the really good ones. What they'll tell you is, would you go to that school if you weren't playing baseball? Right? Ooh. Like that. And that was something that they always used to say. Now, as a kid, you're 16, 17, you don't want to hear that. That's not something that you want to hear. But as I got older, it started to make sense to me, where I would travel to see some of these schools or do showcases at these schools.
Right.
And I would take stock in that advice. So I ended up choosing my college based on the school. But I remember in my junior year, I was only focused on going D1. You know, I did not care about D2 or D3 schools. Although everyone knows like D3 schools have excellent academic programs, and there are some amazing D3 programs. Like just because someone's playing D3 baseball doesn't mean they're not playing high level baseball. You know, there are amazing coaches and talent there. It was just for me, I had committed when I was 14 years old. I was like, I'm playing D1 baseball. That's it. I had a slew of D2 and D3 offers, but they were all off to the side for me because I was like, I'm looking for the D1 school. And I think I didn't actually get my first D1 offer until the spring of my senior year.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was very late. And I remember, you know, between my parents, there was a lot of good D3 schools that I had, meaning excellent academic programs. You know, like I remember Amherst recruited me for a really long time. Kenyon was another school in Ohio. I mean, these were some really good, like, academic schools, liberal arts schools, but I was not interested because I was going D1.
I feel that.
and I said, I don't care. I'm a D1 baseball player. And I think the hard thing for me was I was undersized, you know, so I'm not a tall guy. And, you know, the coaches, that's like the first thing, they want projections. They're like, oh, I know you're a really good player, but they're looking at the projections. And I didn't have the projection based on my stature. So, you know, I had to really grind through it and commit to, you know, the immediate goal, which was, no, I said D1 years ago, I won't stop until I get that.
Love that thought process.
And ultimately in my spring, I got offers from Marist, Maine, Manhattan, and then I ended up choosing Fairfield University in Connecticut. I did not have an offer to go there. I had met with the coaches before choosing to go to the school because they knew who I was because I was getting recruited by the same coaches in the same conference, in the MAC conference. So they had seen me and they had seen my name in the circuit and knew who I was, but I didn't have an offer. And they told me, you know, hey, we actually do need a catcher, but there's no guarantee. So you could try to walk on. So I just said to myself, I love the school. I fell in love with the campus. It was so different. Coming from New York City, all we know is concrete streets. You know, we don't see a lot of greenery. And there was some sort of like peace and serenity when I got to the campus and I said, I really need to go here. So I chose to go to that school on an academic level. And then I decided, okay, well, I'm going to go try out for the team and try to walk on. And fortunately, that's exactly what I did. You know, but I turned down a bunch of D1 offers, not a bunch, but a couple for that were sure shots because I was like, no, I'm betting on myself. I love this school and I'm going to commit to this school. And so that's how I ended up choosing Fairfield.
I love that. I think a lesson I just want to highlight real quick is that you never lose when you bet on yourself.
That's a fact.
You never lose when you bet on yourself. It's either a win or a lesson. Always. And I like how and I'm really curious to know where that comes from. I mean, I probably have an idea, but where does that confidence come from where you like you're going to youth service, like, listen, I'm playing here. Then it goes to Zavarian, like I belong here. Then it's like I'm only going D1. And then going to a school where you're not guaranteed to even play.
Right.
So like where does that confidence like stem from?
Thank you for asking. That's the question I was gonna ask.
It's honestly, it's an excellent question. I think confidence is gained. I don't think it's inherently in us necessarily. Like I think some people are born with it for sure. I mean, there is a certain level, but you gain an extra level of confidence from, you know, doing the small things right consistently. Right. So when you take stock in what you're doing and you're really intentional about what you're doing and you commit to it every single day and make small strides each day, there's confidence that's gained in that, right? So when you might say to yourself, oh, okay, well, you know, it's not that special what I just did. Like, you know, all I did was just catch a pop fly. It's like, okay, but if you keep doing that consistently, right, every single time there's a new level, a play becomes more difficult. And every single time you conquer it, you actually realize, wait, I gained more confidence from just doing the little things right consistently. So I think youth service and starting at Zavarian helped foster that,
Yeah.
you know, because I started doing the small things right consistently behind the plate, you know, blocking balls all the time, framing, you know, throwing the ball down to second base. And I started doing it consistently right over and over and over again.
Yeah.
To a point that it builds a big level of confidence in yourself, to where eventually you look around and you're like, no, I have my confidence now. I know that I could do this.
Yep.
So it's part of a mindset, but then it's also from just doing the simple things right consistently. And that's how you gain confidence. So I think it's a bit of both.
I love that.
Interesting.
I love that. Now, talk to us about how was that walking in to Fairfield that first time and walking in to the program, because you know, for people out there who've never played a sport or anything or have never been recruited, it's a different feeling when you get recruited to go to a school and you know that you have a spot or an opportunity waiting for you.
Yep.
You walked into your school with, well, my spot isn't guaranteed, but I know I'm playing. What was that like? Speak to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I love telling this story because, you know, me and my dad talk about it all the time. Even till this day, we still talk about it. But I brought that confidence and then some when I went into Fairfield, because I said, there's no guarantee here and there's no turning back, because there's no guaranteed
Burn the
spot.
bridges.
And for me, I'm like, this is it. So I have to show out. So the only way that I could do that is by doubling down and upping the confidence to say, you know what? No, I've played all over. I've played all over the country. I've seen other players playing the same position as me, and I know that I can compete. And that's exactly what I did when I went to Fairfield. And I'll never forget the confidence I brought there. I brought gold cleats with me. I had these gold. I had these all. I had no. I'll never forget. So to tell a story too about Fairfield. Fairfield's in Fairfield, Connecticut, and there were not a lot of Spanish ball players there at all. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just coming from New York City, all I knew was playing with Spanish ball players.
Yes.
I was a Spanish ball player, and we played the game with a certain level of confidence and passion.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that, not that I'm saying that other players at Fairfield didn't do that,
If you
but
know, you know.
if you know, you know. It's
It's just that swag, that aura. you
exactly.
carry.
It's like this certain level of confidence and like aura that you bring to the
Yep.
game, and like bravado, you know? And when I went to Fairfield, I was like, that's exactly what I'm going to bring to the field.
Yeah.
And I just so happened to have these beautiful, fresh gold cleats that my grandmother got for me.
Shout out to Granny.
Yep, shout out to her. Rest in peace. And she got them for me as a gift in high school. They were like an all-star pack, and I said, I'm wearing these to go try out. I had black cleats that I could wear, you know, like standard. I'm like, no, but I want to stand out. And I showed up to the first day of tryouts. There was a bunch of other guys looking to walk on, and then there was all the players that were already on the team.
Yeah.
And they make it difficult for you because, you know, it's like, they make it very difficult because it's like, oh, who are these guys? You know, and I get it. It's part of like almost like an initiation, or like, you know, who do they think they are, and can they back it up?
Yes.
And I was the guy, I stuck out like a sore thumb because I had gold cleats, and they're like, who is this guy? Like, oh, we're taking it extra hard. So I remember we were doing showcase style infield, outfield, and catchers always go last.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, okay, now everyone's coming off the field because, you know, outfielders, they make all their throws. Infielders, you know, they turn two, get the ball coming in, you know, long throw. Everyone does their thing. Now the final step is it's everybody, the entire team, coaches included, and one coach. It's like, all right, let's see the throw. Pop time, throws down the second. And there was like 6 or 7 catchers. And I just remember, you know, I was one of the last ones to go. And when I got up there, they're all screaming and yelling. And meanwhile, I have these gold cleats on. Sure enough, 3 laser beams down the second base, just like, you know, low 1-9s. And for anybody that knows the sport of baseball, obviously, if you're watching the podcast, you know, you need to be under 2 if you want to be an elite level catcher. And I just threw 3 laser beams down the second, knee high, and the murmurs were quiet after that. It was, oh, okay. Right? Like, who is this guy?
That's gold cleats.
That's gold cleats.
We need gold cleats.
And yeah, I remember that there was one coach from Fairfield. He hated that I would wear these gold cleats. Absolutely hated it. And after, you know, 8 weeks of trying out for the team, I finally made the team. And they couldn't deny, like, yeah, you were an excellent catcher. Like, you really have a special skill behind the plate defensively. But the coach said, get rid of those cleats. Like, as soon as you made the team. And yeah, my dad, he loves that story because the gold cleats are a symbol to me now in my life today to say, yeah. And my dad told me, you know, when he's like, you need to get those cleats framed and put it in your office because it tells a story for who you are. That you, at a very young age, you turned down sure shots because you had a belief in yourself and a conviction. And you said, I'm going for it. And you didn't look back and you did it. And you did it with a level of confidence. And that's what it takes in life. Generally, is having a certain level of confidence in yourself to say, I can do this and I will do this. So yeah, those were special times, but that was me trying out for the team. And that was special for me. I still have the gold cleats today because, again, they're a symbol.
That's a fact.
Shout out to the gold cleats. I think what you also like touched on, like, and not directly, but just having the courage. Right, because I feel like a lot of people may be like fearful, like when it comes to going towards things. And I was a little fearful, you know, going from high school to college because you go from being the best person on your team. Now you're a freshman where everybody's coming from that same point of like they were the best person on their team. But sometimes you just have to do it scared anyway, and it's just having the confidence in yourself, but also the courage just to go ahead, you know, for it. And I think that's what it was for you. But I don't even really think you were fearful. It was just like, yo, I belong to be here.
It's such a good point for you to say that because you do have those jitters.
Always,
you have those jitters, and
you're human. You're human because you care.
Exactly. I was just about going to say that.
Nervous about something, you know, whether it's baseball, whether it's the podcast, whatever, is because you actually care about the result. You want to do good.
Exactly. I'm so glad you said that because it's very true. So. You still feel it today too. You know, I'm starting at a new law firm, and I feel the jitters of going into a new environment. Not because I'm scared, but because I know I want to arrive and compete and bring that same energy. And it's always difficult to start something new and reprove yourself. And in high school, you do that. You show, oh, like I'm Cam, like everyone knows me, I'm nice. And same thing, JP, like I'm an excellent pitcher. But now when you get to college, you have to prove it again.
Who's Cam?
It's
Who's
the fear
JP?
of the unknown.
Who's Zach?
That's what it really is. The fear of the unknown, just not really knowing what you're gonna get into. And then as you start to like do well, it's like, okay, like I'm a little more comfortable. Now you kind of know what to expect moving forward.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact. Now talk to us about, you know, you made it on the team. You made this big statement, Mr. Gold Cleats himself stepping onto Fairfield. Talk to us about what was that first time on the field, first game, first at bat, that first time behind the dish, you know, receiving that pitch or whatever. What was that like? You know, what do you remember?
Oh, I can never forget it. So the first time that I played, I remember we didn't travel with the entire team. I think at the time we had a roster of 35 guys, and maybe we traveled with like 30 guys in total.
All right.
But we were playing down at the University of North Florida in Jacksonville, and at the time they had 2 MLB draft picks, really top tier talent, and great pitchers. Like, it was just an excellent program. And we went down there for, you know, a weekend series, and it was like probably late February. Here I'm a freshman, and we had a senior catcher at the time who ended up actually signing with the White Sox as a catcher.
Wow.
So here I am, I'm in the bullpen. I'm not thinking anything of it. I'm like, I'm not playing in this series. Like, there's just no way. And I'm standing next to this pitcher on the team. His name's Jeremy Soul. Shout out Jeremy. And he's standing in the bullpen waiting to go in the game because he was warming up. We're standing by each other's side, and the coach comes out and he ways to call, and he starts running, and the coach stops him. He's like, no, him. And Jeremy looks at me. Jeremy looks at me and goes, him? And because he was older, he was a junior. He's like, Zach? Like, he's going in behind the plate. And I looked at him, I'm like, he say me? And so it was because it was a late defensive replacement. Like, I was like maybe like the 6th inning.
Oh yeah.
So it was late in the game at that point. So I'm literally geared up and I just run straight to home plate. Like, I've never even had that situation. I've never been put in the game as a catcher late. Like, this is never. I've
always been a starter.
I was always a starter, so it was weird for me. But went behind the dish. Everything was fine. Very typical. Like, you know, tons of jitters, like calling pitches because I wasn't calling the game. In college, they were calling the game from the dugout. So we had,
very different.
Yeah, we had so that was also different too, because I hadn't done that. In high school, it was, Zach, you call the game. I had called the game for 4 years. I started calling games when I was playing for youth service. Frank Rodriguez allowed me to learn how to, call a game.
That's dope.
So yeah, I called the game even through high school. Dope. My coaches, they knew, he knows how to call a game because I learned at a young age. So it was weird for me because going behind the plate in college, now I have this wristband with all these, different,
numbers,
throwing numbers out there. And so now you have the jitters. You're getting called into the game in the middle of a game as a defensive replacement. And now it's like, I have no idea what's going on. Sure enough, it was fine. Everything worked out behind the dish. And then my first AB was in the 8th inning, and we were down 3-1. And I went up there and I hit a home run in my first at bat. A home run in my first at bat. I'll never forget it. I actually was down in the count too, 1-2, because I remember I took a ball. It was 1-0. And then I smoked a ball down the left field line that was just foul by about like 2 feet.
0-2.
And then, it was 1-1. Then I took a strike and I was down 1-2. Sure enough, curveball, I just dropped my bat head and hit it to left field. And I see this like high fly ball. And, I'm a freshman, so I'm like, ball's in play. I just immediately, I sprint, head down, sprint around first base. My head's down, and I finally look up in between first and second. I just see the outfielder going back and back and back. And I see him getting to the warning track. And by the time I hit second base, the umpire just starts going like this. And it was the most euphoric feeling in my life because number one, I was not a power hitter. I did not hit home runs. I was known for my defensive ability, not for offense. And I just remember like rounding third base and the entire team losing their minds because the fact that I got thrown into the game that late, and then in my first at bat, like that's exactly what you dream of. Your first at bat is to do something. I
feel that.
Whatever it is. And yeah, I hit a home run, and then the hitter after that went back to back with me. He hit
that first experience must have been crazy.
He hit a dinger. Yeah, Jack Giannini. He hit a dinger right behind me. Absolutely bombed it to left center field. And the team was like, it was like this feeling of like an uplift. And I think after that, it kind of set the tone where it was like, was that by chance that like I just brought all this energy to the game? And from there going forward, I was really used as like a defensive replacement where I'd come in late in the games to, stop the run game if we had like a small lead. But yeah, that was like the first experience, and it was
so dope.
That's crazy.
It was really crazy.
That's when preparation just meets an opportunity. That's that's literally what it was. Like, bro, I'm hearing all like, and like for me, it's like all that work that you put in from service to the varying like that one moment just shows all that work just kind of coming to light.
Literally, it's a culmination of all of those things coming together because, if you didn't go through all of those things from 14, going to youth service, having Frank put you through those vigorous practices and everything, being around the people like the Tony Nunez, the Josh Palacios, the Elvin Soto, to where it forces you to now step into a different version of yourself to where you have to, the people that I'm around are right here. I can't be right here. So now you have to now everything that you've been through basically prepared you for that moment. And it was just like, other people might see it as, oh shit, he got lucky, but no. He's been working for the past 8.5 years, 9 years for this moment. And, we had when we were having the conversation, off camera, we were talking about how during the week, you might put in 1,000 swings. That day for the game comes, you might only take 3. But those 1,000 swings are going to be the difference maker of how good those 3 are going to be. And it was literally a culmination of all of that.
That's what makes baseball special too, because it's very synonymous to life.
Yes.
1,000%.
Because there's only so many circumstances where you're given an opportunity or a platform to actually, perform. You might spend all this time for one quick moment. And baseball's so different than any other sport because basketball, it's not like that. Football, it's not like that. Baseball, it's, you're going to get 3 ABs. And again, you might only swing the bat 2-3 times the entire game.
Yeah.
And the odds are already stacked against you in baseball. You know, you fail 7 times out of 10 if you're good. If you're good.
Really good.
If you're really good.
You know?
And that's life. So I think, saying that, you know, opportunity, meeting your preparation, you built your own luck.
Yeah. And I think also too, but I mean, there's just so many dope things to your story, but like one thing that stands out is your environment is gonna change you before you can change it.
Yes.
And I think whether you're in business or whatever, like you always want to be around people who are at that next level to show you what that next level is gonna look like, because it pushes you, you know, a lot further, and it pushes you to be better.
Right.
Amen.
You know?
Exactly.
No, it's dope.
So going forward, you've hit this home run to start off your college career, euphoric, everything that you could possibly dream for and ask for. Now, everything is good. Where does this story start to turn to where you notice, this might not be my future anymore? Baseball, I don't know where this is taking me, where you started to notice I might have to pivot.
Yeah, I would say it was probably in that freshman year. It was
early. Soon.
It was early.
Wow.
It was early, and I think because it was just a complete struggle, with all the practicing and the travel, and also now going to school. I was a nursing major at the time.
Oh wow!
Oh, you started as a nursing major.
I did. Yeah.
How was that? It
was very difficult.
How that was, because I know there was guys on my team that quit because nursing was it was way too much for them to balance.
And there's a reason why you don't see baseball players as nursing majors, because the classes are just too difficult. In part, not because that you can't handle it, but because, when you're practicing, 20 hours a week, and then you're traveling, 10 hours a week, and then
whole job.
It's a job, 30 to 40 hours a week, on top of trying to also study for exams that require 30 to 40 hours of you can't mix the two together. So I think it was just a tough environment, because the schooling was tough at the time. There was a lot that I had to do, and I just think I wasn't playing that much. And I just think that was the start of me seeing, oh, okay, I might need to start preparing for a life after baseball.
Yeah.
And that was really like the start of it, to say, I will always love this game, but I also have to understand that, my time may be ticking with it. And that was really probably the start of it.
But how was that? Like, how did you feel through those moments? Because a lot of people, I don't really know anybody that's really was like happy about that. Like, oh, like this and my baseball dreams are just dreams now, and I might not be able to play this game at the next level. Like, how did you handle?
I hated it. I hated it because my entire identity was baseball.
Yeah.
And the same for you guys.
Yeah.
You put your whole life into this. At the time, I'm, 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm saying to myself, like, this is all I know is baseball. So I think I hated it, that I knew I was feeling like I needed to prepare for a change. It's not something that I wanted. If I could choose,
Of course.
I'm playing baseball. It doesn't matter, because I still get chills too walking by a field today, or seeing somebody who's like younger going to train. Like the other day, I saw a kid when I was taking the train, and he had his glove on his bat and a backpack, and it just was very nostalgic.
Yeah.
And so I think that was the start of me preparing. And then I remember in my sophomore year, I was actually cut. I was actually cut from Fairfield University. They had brought in a bunch of new recruits. They brought in a couple new catchers they were great catchers. And I just think circumstances, were not in my favor that year.
Yeah.
So I remember in the spring of my sophomore year, I was cut. And that was really the first sign of adversity to say, oh, wow, okay, there has to be a life after baseball now. But I scrambled.
Yeah.
I scrambled. I remember at that point, I was very close to transferring to another school. I was thinking about going to this D2 school in Tennessee. And I remember I flew down there and visited with my dad. Like, we went to go see the school because they wanted me. They were in need of a catcher.
Yeah.
And it was a really good program. Like, you know, they played some, basically it was a D1 program. They were just in a D2 conference. And I just remember looking around. I went to visit the school, and it was a nice school. But I looked at my dad. I'm like, I can't come here. There's cows across the street. I'm like,
No hamburgers.
Yeah, there was. But even still, it was just. I was like, you know, and that almost reaffirmed. I'm like, okay, I do need to prepare for a life after baseball, because I wasn't willing to commit to it that much. Not the sport, but I wasn't willing to change my circumstance to go to Tennessee. To not like my environment just to play baseball.
Yeah.
And I thought back to what I said earlier, which is, why did I choose Fairfield in the first place? I chose it for the school. So, you know, and I was even close to transferring to NYIT, which
Shout out to
yeah. So I was very close. We would have played together then. So I was
went there.
I was very close to I was very close to transferring to Tech, to stay playing D1 ball.
Yeah.
But then ultimately I decided to stay at Fairfield, and it was probably the best decision of my life. Although I didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
Looking back, I know it today that it was the best decision of my life to stay at that school.
Why is that?
Well, number one, I built lifelong friends. I'm still friends with, you know, a bunch of the guys that played, that were on the team for all 4 years. You know, I went to all their weddings.
See, that's dope.
So yeah, exactly. So like, I went to, you know, I watched all these guys get married. You know, I'm watching some of them have kids now.
That's so cool.
So and also the actual academics, you know, it set the tone for me even getting into law school.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, now I'm having a lot of success with that. So and just the network too. The network of people from Fairfield is incredible. So it turned out to be the best decision that I stayed. And funny enough too, because I remember my junior year I came back, and the head coach, he wanted me to come back to play. Yeah, because they had a need again.
Oh, now you want me.
Well, yeah, they had a need again behind the plate, and you know, I turned it down. I said no, because at that point I was committed, and I said, okay, I am preparing for the life after baseball. It was nice knowing, okay, you could come back and play again. But at that point, it was almost like a sign from God, I would say, that, you know, although this isn't what you think you want, you'll understand later.
Right.
So
Powerful.
Yeah. And that was the truth. Like, I didn't know then. I was blessed too. I got to play D1 baseball. Like, that's exactly what I wanted. And I knew, okay, I belonged. I always did.
Yeah.
So I had already achieved so much at that point.
Love that.
That it didn't bother me, because, you know, I had come to terms with, okay, I know I was a really good ball player.
Yeah.
There's just another level of players that are even that much better. So even if I had stayed on the team all 4 years, you know, what would the clock be after that? Even if it was minor league baseball. You know, I don't know.
One thing that I want to commend you on, from a very early age, you always stood true to yourself and to your guns. And that's something that I want to highlight, especially for the younger generation. It is going to be very tough in times of adversity to stay true to who you are. And it would have been very easy for Zac to go and transfer like many other people do, because I was a product of that too. My first college, you know, things didn't go the way it went. And I ended up leaving because I wanted to continue playing baseball. But that was because of the fact that I didn't make the decision how Zac did. You made your decision because you genuinely liked the school. So it was easier for you to come to terms and to grip with, you know what? Baseball, it's not probably going to work out, but there's also some dope stuff I got going on over here that I'm good at. And that you were able to recognize a life after baseball way earlier. So like, I want to commend you on that, because, and I want, you know, the younger generation to really pay attention to that, because, you know, like Cam and I have mentioned in our first episode, there's going to be more of you guys who are not going to make it than there are who are going to make it. And it's just the truth of the matter. When that time comes, if that time comes, if you are one of them, just stay true to who you are. Remember why you chose your school. Remember why you're doing what you are doing. And this is a perfect example of that. So I just want to commend you.
I appreciate that.
Just always staying true to your guns. You know, I want to play for youth service. I want to go to Zavarian. I'm playing D1 baseball. I'm walking on. I'm wearing gold cleats. I'm him.
Says a lot about
It says a lot about who you are. And I feel like that also comes with the proximity. If you had people like your dad, your uncle, your coaches, all of these people, high level people who they're instilling confidence in you, know who you are, stand tall, no matter if it gets messy, stand through it and you'll appreciate it. And
I appreciate that so much. And I was blessed to honestly have the best support system. Like I said, my dad was always there for all of my games, all of my practices. He drove me 2 hours each way to get to some games, some practices, and also my mom too. And everything that I've done in my life, she's helped me build confidence in myself to say, you're going to be great, but you have to tell yourself and push through it. Adversity always comes, so it's a matter of having your foresight, having a plan, and sticking to it through everything. She was the one that pushed me to go to law school. She told me, "You're going to law school." And you're going to be great. You're going to do it. So I was also blessed to have a family that, helped me understand and see light at the end of the tunnel. And it's still something I'm chasing to this day. Every single day I'm still, how do I get better? How do I have confidence? How do I continue to double down and still, believe in what I'm doing? So
that's where then I feel like you just get that just from baseball, right? Just always trying to get better because you want to help your pitchers, you want to help your team, you want to help yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So just always looking to be better than you were yesterday, 1% better.
And you're not going to be told every time, to do it and how to do it. You got to figure it out on your own. But to segue into the next question, from you, and I feel like this is something that people don't think about. Maybe different for you, but what was that first maybe semester like? Going from student athlete to just student, because I feel like a lot of people don't talk about that, because that is a very big thing for you to go from student athlete to just a student, because like you said, baseball and your sport is your whole identity. Most of us are choosing our college based on our sport. So now we're not playing that sport. Now I'm just a regular student like everyone else. What was that like for you? And like, where did that take you to law school and everything like that? Like, how did you get there?
I would say while in college, the first semester, it was identity crisis.
Because the
first semester after not being on the team.
Okay,
got you.
Yeah, the first semester after not being on the team, it was identity crisis because it was a small college too. Fairfield is now there's maybe like 4,500 students. At the time I went there was maybe like 3,500. So everyone knows everyone for the most part, and it's a school that there's no fraternities, no sororities, so sports were the thing. Like if you were on a team, you were identified with being on that team. So now it's like I almost lost my card to be like, why aren't you traveling this weekend? It's like, oh, you didn't hear, like I'm not on the team anymore. I'm not exactly. So it's almost like continuously like repeating it. So it was an identity crisis in the first semester, but shortly after that, I just found a way to fill my time the way that I normally would. I was still in the gym, still working out, still consistently, focusing on academics and like outside interests. Like I had a radio show, so I had a full blown radio show, and that like helped me to, again, prepare for like, okay, you can still enjoy your life, and you can use that energy you had for baseball and put it somewhere else. And that's exactly what I did. So it was weird at first, but then I realized it gave me an opportunity to grow into myself outside of baseball. Because you definitely don't want to be one dimensional. You don't want to be a one trick pony. And I think it helped me diversify who I was as an individual, and has now helped me in my life today. So I still carry the sport with me. I just think, at first it was difficult transitioning. And I remember it was funny. I was even coaching like a younger team at the time in Connecticut. And I had this minor league player who was like in between getting ready to go back for his season. And one day he asked me, he's like, you mind catching a pen for me? Like at the end of practice? I'm like, yeah, sure. And this guy was just like dotting up like 92, 93. And I was just back there like, just like, he's like, why'd you stop playing baseball? I'm like, and I said, so it felt good because I was like, okay, at that point I'd come to terms with, I could still enjoy the sport. I could still enjoy the game, but now I'm able to use that energy and continue building. And then it carried with me in law school. So you guys asked about, how was law school?
How did that even?
Especially from nursing, because
Yeah,
you were a nursing major.
Yeah, for 1 year.
Oh, okay, so that was for 1 year?
Just the freshman year.
Which was your toughest year?
Yeah, it was my toughest year.
Yeah, so then after that, like, what does that look like after, as far as like your major and then going into law school?
Yeah, so I was a communications major after that.
Okay.
And communications was broad. So I was taking business classes. I was taking marketing classes. I was able to take, like a photography class, a videography class. So I was able to really get a full experience and try my hand at different things.
That's dope.
And I didn't take any legal classes. Like I took like a poli-sci class once, political science. But there wasn't, I wasn't focused on the legal route yet.
Yeah.
That happened when my sister, she's 2 years older than me, she was preparing to go to law school. So when I was a junior, she was just starting to prepare to go into law school. Exactly. And then the environment and who you're around and the opportunity and the people that you're surrounding yourself, it kind of makes you play up and be better.
Yeah.
So my sister, when she was preparing for law school, I came back junior summer and my mom was like, after you graduate college, you should follow your sister's footsteps and do the same thing. So that's exactly what I did. That's exactly what I did. And I didn't really have a choice. It was funny because my mom always wanted us to have a licensed profession. Okay. So I didn't have a choice. And, I remember telling my mom after I graduated college, I don't want to go to law school. And she was like, I don't care what you want, you're going. So
Mom's the Spanish one?
Yeah. So then she pushed me to go, and thank God she did. I'm so blessed, Mom. Thank you, because I would not be here if it wasn't for you doing what I'm doing. So, and enjoying success, a lot of it. Thank God, I'm blessed for it. I thank God every day for it. But I transitioned into law school seamlessly. Yeah. I think because I no longer had identity crisis. And I honestly think it worked in my favor, because if I had played all 4 years of college baseball and then transitioned immediately into law school, it would have been me going through identity crisis while I was in law school,
Wow.
So then it's almost
great,
and it's almost like saying again, I'm like, you never know. Like God knows, you may not understand it at the time. Right. So at the time, I couldn't understand, why I was getting cut when I didn't deserve to be.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that because if it was, it was just the truth. I just didn't at the time. And I'm man enough to say that. I would say, oh yeah, if I didn't belong, I should have been cut, but it wasn't the case. But either way, things work out for a certain reason, and I'm glad that it did, because if I had been going through identity crisis in law school, that would have been so bad. Because if I thought nursing school was hard, law school is much more difficult.
Really? So, yeah, talk to us about the law school. And I feel like even, just your preparation with baseball and like how much time you put into baseball. I mean, you have Frank Rodriguez ripping ground balls at you. Now you're just in law school. You don't have to block any ground balls. Screaming ground balls at you. But so how was law school?
The energy's the same. It's just a different environment. So
is it the same like how we see it on TV? Like
that's what I want.
In some, certain aspects. Yeah, I would say law school. I don't know if you've ever seen, like the classic, like Legally Blonde, cold calling, like the scene where she gets cold called. So basically, it's not like the movies portray or like TV shows, but the cold calling aspect definitely is true. Yeah. Meaning, and for anyone that doesn't know what cold calling is, you have 5 different classes, black letter law classes, and black letter law are like foundational principles in the legal world. Okay. It's like contract law, civil procedure, constitutional law. They're known as like the most difficult classes because they're foundational classes.
Okay.
So each professor gives you like 100 pages per class to read. So think about it. You might have, each day 500 pages of stuff to read. And the worst part about it is it's a cold calling method, meaning you show up to class that day and whatever the professor's teaching, they can call on whoever they want at any point, no matter what. So they can say, JP, tell us about this case. Like, what would you think about the reading today? And they'll go in and they'll ask you all these questions on the fly. So you talk about how the environment prepared me, like, oh, okay, Frank Rodriguez is not ripping ground balls at me anymore.
Yeah.
But when I was in the gym and Frank Rodriguez was ripping these ground balls at me, you have 30 to 40 guys in a stand watching you, and you're by yourself out there.
Yep. On an island.
Now, when you're in law school, you're on an island by yourself being cold called because you're sitting in an auditorium classroom and everyone's just staring at you while you're being grilled and asked these questions. Yeah. So it's on the fly. So I think that was a game changer for me. That was very difficult. That was true adversity.
Yeah.
Baseball, that was one thing, and facing adversity, like at higher skill level, but I had to completely retrain myself in law school because it was something that you can't experience until you do it. So I think the first year was hard, and that's the TV aspect is, very, very competitive, very cutthroat.
Yeah.
It's because law school is graded on a curve.
Okay.
So
what do you mean?
So basically, you have like 1 or 2 exams, and it's like a bell curve, right? Okay. So with a bell curve, you're going to have basically the standard is to come over the bell curve and to score at the top, you have to be so much better than everyone else. Okay. So your competition's greater. Ooh. So it's kind of like in college. You said you went from high school to college, you were the best player in high school, but now you're on a field where everyone is the best player. Yes. College, law school is the same thing, because in college you could have performed really well, but now you have all of these law students that also performed really well, but now it's just in law school. So now your competition is higher. Yep. So now if you have an exam that's graded on a bell curve system, you're going to fall somewhere either below average. For you to beat the curve, you have to be so much better than everyone else. And then the majority of the class will fall between the middle. So that's very, very hard. And that's the nature of the beast for law school. And just to mention too, not everyone that applies to go to law school gets in. So you have applicants from college graduates that can't even get into law school. So now if you go to a law school that's really good, your competition's, it's so, the margins are very tight. Villanova, the acceptance rate at my law school is 15%. So think about it, for every 100 applicants, only 15 are getting accepted. And that's the statistic, again, of playing baseball at a high level. You play D1 ball, 1% of baseball players in high school are going to play D1 ball.
Very true.
So go to MLB ball, that number move the decimal.
Move the decimal point. Yeah, exactly.
That was even nastier.
Yeah.
But so with that being the case with law school, do you feel like baseball gave you an edge, or being an athlete gave you an edge stepping into that classroom, that environment with a bunch of law students who might necessarily have just been regular students their entire life preparing for this while you were an athlete?
Yes. I think it was hard. And I think stepping into law school, the competitive edge that I had from baseball was the best training grounds, because it gave me a mentality that carried with me to say, no matter what and how difficult this gets, I'm doing this. 3 years, like, I was committed. And a lot of people drop out of law school in the first year. I don't know if you know that, but so in the first year, it's known, like, let's say if you start out with a class of 200, by the time you graduate, only maybe 160 might graduate.
It's a lot of drop.
It is. It's a lot of people will drop out in the first year. For me, I refused. I said, I'm going in there 3 years. I'm coming out of the school. And that's exactly the mentality. So I carried that competitive edge to say, no, I'm playing D1 baseball. I don't care what this coach has to say. I know me. I know my ability. And there was a lot of adversity I had to face, heading into law school. And I had to beat the odds, because I think a lot of people doubted that I could. And I just pushed through it regardless. But the competitive edge from baseball carried with me going into law school to say, okay, you used to put in all this time for baseball. Now you're going to put it into the books.
You said you had a lot of doubts. Like, speak to that a little bit, because I feel like even like you were saying in baseball, right? Like, you weren't a tall catcher. Usually catchers,
right?
Bigger, stockier, whatever the case may be. Yeah. So I feel like you had to beat the odds with that.
Yeah.
But talk to us about, beating the doubts. Cause I know, some people may even have doubted, you or JP or myself when it comes to making it in pro baseball, let alone in law school. So like, and how did you overcome that?
Well, I just think that, at the time that I started college, I was struggling academically with nursing.
Okay.
And that was just because it's not because I wasn't capable. It's just because the environment I was in, I was basically set up to fail because I just didn't have the resources at that time because I was so committed to baseball. And that took up so much of my time that I couldn't really succeed in the classroom the way I wanted to. It's not that I was
you couldn't.
Terrible. It's just, I just couldn't at the time. And I think going into law school, there was definitely the doubt where, some people would say like, law school is really hard. I'm not sure it's, the graduation rate, it's, sometimes less than 70%. Yeah. So I think some people definitely doubted that were around me to say, oh, okay, well, we'll see how it goes. So I think for me, I had to have a mentality to believe in myself. You're up at the plate by yourself. Only you can believe in yourself to get a hit. Only you can believe in yourself to get a hit. That's it. So I just knew I had to compete, and I just knew that I had to kind of beat the odds, and I carried that with me.
Love that. What was it like passing the bar? What was taking the bar and preparing for that? Like, because, a lot of people, they hear about, the bar exam, becoming a lawyer, what was that actually like? And specifically, how did baseball tie into that, and how did either prepare you or it kind of got you ready for something you might have already experienced before,
Yeah, it's a great question. The bar exam, actually, it's funny, it's perfect timing because today, July 25th, the bar exam is happening on July 29th.
Wow.
Yeah, so the bar exam only happens 2 times per year. They have one exam in July, one exam in February. And preparing for the bar exam was the most difficult thing I had ever done in my life.
Wow. That says a lot.
Nothing could compare to it.
More than anything in baseball.
More than anything in baseball, because the exam is designed to really weed out a lot of people. So now think about going on numbers, right? I just said before, not every college graduate gets into law school. Yes. And then now not every law grad passes the bar exam. So the standard again gets that much greater.
Yeah.
I think the passage rate for the bar exam on the first try is only 60%. So
wow.
It's almost half. 10 people walk into that room, 4 of them are failing. 4 of them are failing. And the problem with the bar exam and what makes it so difficult is all the work that it takes to prepare and even sit for it, because you have to have certain exams that you have to, in New York at least, you have to sit for the MPRE exam, which is like an ethical exam. Then you have to sit for the New York State exam, which is a separate exam just to qualify to sit for the bar exam.
Oh my!
Right. God. So now you go through 3 years of law school. You have to take prerequisite exams to even qualify to sit for the exam, and it was just the most difficult thing in my life because you have to learn, essentially 14 or 15 like different subjects. And it's all crammed into one exam. So I don't remember how many essays off the top of my head it was, but it's at least like 10 to 12 essays that you have to do. Not handwritten. They have it. It's typed. Yeah, no, it's typed. I mean, you can handwrite if you want, but it's 2025, so people are definitely not doing that. So I think that exam was so difficult because you have to know so many different areas of the law, and then the questions are really difficult. So preparing for it was the hardest thing in my life because I reached this culmination of graduating law school. And mind you, I graduated through the pandemic. So I graduated 2021. So there was so much going on in the world in 2020 while I was finishing. And 2021, people start going back outside again. I finally graduate after 3 long years. And now right after graduation's over, which happens in May.
Okay.
2 months.
It's right back to work. You have a weekend to yourself. And then it's like, let's go to work. And let's go on a run.
That's the season. That's the season ending at the end of the summer. It's 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Ball.
And it's the same thing. So I remember I graduated. It was like the middle of May 15th or 16th. I think I took like 5 days for myself just to like mentally prepare and see some people. And then it was ghost. Like every single day I would wake up, like right around May 25th. It was like Memorial Day weekend, and phone on D&D starting at 7 o'clock in the morning. And then I'll pick up my phone again at, 10, 11 at night, right before I go to bed. The bar exam was the most difficult thing that I've ever done in my life, because you have to commit your entire life to it. And I think also what people don't realize too is people in your life also have to commit to it. So at the time, because you can't do things on your own. Like, I mean, people definitely do.
Yeah.
But for most people, they have, a loved one, they have, family that they're living with, and they have to commit to it as well. So at the time I was living, my sister was still at home. We were both living with our parents at the house we grew up in. So our parents committed to know the house is going to be quiet. So it's a good study environment, basically for the entire summer. And I just remember
I love that.
my schedule. This was my schedule. I would wake up 6 a.m. I would read the news, because I love reading the news, Wall Street Journal. Wake up every day with my coffee, 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. outside getting that vitamin D, just getting ready to prepare.
Yes.
And then 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. was the first round of the day. And I would dive into one or two different subjects. I would take a lunch break from 11 to 12. 12 to 4 was round 2. And then it would be different subjects. Dinner around 5 or 6, and then again 6 to 10 it was studying again. I did that basically from May 25th all the way through the end of July. So I didn't see anybody that summer. I legitimately did nothing. When I say I did nothing that summer, I studied 7 days a week with that exact same schedule from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. at night for 10 weeks straight. I did not do anything. The only thing I did that summer was I went to one of my roommates from college. I went to his wedding. That was the only thing I did. I took one day to take a study break to go to his wedding, because I wanted to be there for him.
Sure.
Right.
And I kind of needed it for a reset, so I didn't burn out.
Absolutely.
But other than that, it was I was doing 100-hour weeks, because Saturday, Sunday, I didn't know what day it was, because I would just wake up. I could barely eat. I was still working out, but my anxiety was so high because you're putting in all your effort to this exam, and it's an impossible exam. It is so hard. I promise you, the multiple choice, every option looks like it could be the right answer. every option. And then the essay, you have to do a whole analysis. I went through every essay in a book that was this thick. Multiple choice, I did over 2,000 multiple choice, maybe 3,000 multiple choice questions. So it was the hardest thing in my life, and how baseball helped me prepare for that was just discipline, because there's a difference between being motivated and being disciplined. You could be motivated. You could be motivated for a very short period of time, but motivation burns out. When you're disciplined, it's when you have a goal in mind that no matter what, you're going to push through it. And for me, motivation would have worn out with the exam within 3 weeks. Because doing 100-hour weeks, after 3 weeks, you're like, I can't really do more than this. But when you're disciplined, for me, I knew I was only taking that exam once. I knew I was only sitting for it, because the problem for it is you prepare 10 weeks and then you have to sit for 3 months without the results. So now you're just living limbo. You're living your life in limbo of, did I pass? Did I not pass? So now I'm living my life in limbo for, 3 months. The only thing you could think of is, if I failed this exam, I have to go through that process again. And that's what makes it so hard, because baseball, if you fail, you go 0 for 4 one day. The next day you have another game in front of you. You don't have to wait. With this, it was completely different. But the mentality for me with baseball and being disciplined to say, when I was 14 years old, I'm playing D1 baseball, and it not happening until I was 18, and actually finding out in the fall of 2013 after 2009 committing to it, that was a 4-year stretch. Same thing for law school. I started law school in 2018. I was taking the bar exam in 2021 with the one goal in mind, to become a licensed attorney. I have to pass this exam. So it all comes to one moment that it's all on you. So it was the most difficult thing that I had ever done. And I knew I was only taking the exam once, because there was no way that I would have sat for that twice. And I refused to fail. So it was the same thing. Baseball was the same way. I was making the team. I was walking on. I didn't care. I knew I had the ability. Same thing for the bar exam. I was like, I'd come too far at that point where I'm doing everything to pass this exam right away. And so think about that. It's a lot.
No, that's nuts. One thing, like before we get into like the journey, you know, that you're on now.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, like during your baseball days, especially high school and in college, or even early on in college. I know you only played freshman year. How did you balance your personal life? Because that's one thing I feel like we really don't have, like a social life or personal life, if we're really, you know, dedicated to getting drafted out of high school, even going to college and really excelling with that.
I mean, I remember in high school, the only thing I did was play baseball.
Yep.
And the only social aspect of my life was, you know, being at tournaments with other athletes.
Yes.
Like, you know, like in the summer, it was a very different environment. Like I didn't work a summer job. People, I remember I went to
18.
I went to law school and someone asked me like, oh, like what jobs did you work in when you were? I was like, baseball, a job.
What was that?
A job. Yeah. I didn't have a job. Like my life was baseball. And I think for law school, I felt it again because there's so much commitment that goes into it that your whole life is dedicated towards that. When I was taking the bar exam, I told you I didn't see anybody. The only thing I did that summer was go to the one wedding, and the only people that saw me was my immediate family. And even they didn't see me that much. You know, the time that I spent, the social interaction I had with them was having, you know, my mom bring a glass of wine to the room I was in, and I would be like, you know, take these flashcards, ask me some questions. And that was like our interaction. Same thing for baseball. It's like in high school, the time you're spending is, oh, let's go get something to eat. If we're in a tournament, you know, you're in Florida, you're going to go walk to a strip mall.
Yep.
And get food. And like, that's fun.
Yeah.
That was
literally, or all of us walk into like the nearest Walmart and we're not buying nothing. We just walking around Walmart.
Exactly.
So doing stupid stuff.
Exactly. But I think that probably explains at least a little bit of, you know, what the life is like. You have to become, and I think honestly, to find success as an individual, specifically as an entrepreneur, that has to be your life.
Literally.
That really has to be your life, because you're so isolated, because to achieve a goal, you have to go through a season that no one else can
either know about or understand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you bring up the entrepreneurial part, because it perfectly segues right into, you know, you took the bar exam, you obviously passed the bar exam. I want you to just talk about, you know, that feeling a little, but now you're already a lawyer and everything like that. You have an established licensed profession.
Right. Where
did the business entrepreneurial side come from? Like, you already, you know, so most people, they become a lawyer and they're just thinking, all right, I'm set. I have a good job and everything. You decided to take it a step further and say, there's more that I need for myself. And, you know, that is the real heartbeat of our show, of our podcast. You know, you wanted more. How did you even, you know, land into that entrepreneurial role? But before you get into that, just how was it when you passed the bar exam?
Sure. So the bar exam, that euphoric feeling, round 2 of when I was playing baseball, that home run of years of like this one moment on a stage where everybody's watching, and it just comes together for one moment that's like, you know, 30 seconds of rounding the base. That's just like this high that you can't, it's, you know, you can't describe it to anybody else unless it's something that you personally feel.
Yes.
Passing the bar exam was that round 2 in a different aspect of my life. I remember I was with my sister and it was just us. And I was like, the results came in, because the thing is with the bar exam, they don't tell you when they're going to come out. So they'll just drop an email and you'd be like, results are out. Yeah. So I remember I was,
it gets crazy.
No, I promise. So it's not like, oh yeah, July 25th, you know, you'll expect to see it. It's just like, you know, it could come at any time on any day in the month of October. And I remember working and seeing that email come through, and my heart
would sink.
My heart sank, and I ran to my sister's room, and she was working, and she was like, okay. And then she came behind me, you know, said a quick prayer. And I opened the results, and immediately, like, I didn't even know what I was reading. And she just literally, she's shaking my shoulders, and she's like, you did it, you passed. And I just basically broke out in tears because I had all this emotion built up for so long.
That's so cool.
And I had the same feeling, you know, with baseball. Like I remember when I got back to the hotel, it was like a moment that I broke down and cried because I'm like, damn, I committed to this. I turned down opportunities that were guaranteed. I bet on myself. I did it. So it was that euphoric feeling again of just feeling, you know, all the way on top. Like this is what you do. This was the journey. The journey was getting here, and it was the character that you built getting to that point. And I remember.
Say that one more time. Say that one more time. That's
so basically it's, you know, the journey is really the important part of where your character's built.
Yeah.
And it peaks. It's that success when you feel it. It's like going through all that adversity. That's everything that you could ask for. And I remember this girl I went to law school with, when she passed the bar, she was like, I've never felt this way in my life before. And the only thing I could say to her is I have. And it was because of baseball.
Yeah.
I know what it's like to put your life into something, to commit, and just, it takes a special person. But I think to segue into, you know, the entrepreneurship and wanting more as baseball players, you inherently always want more. You know, it's never good to be just good enough. It's like, no, like, you know, oh, if you're an outfielder and I ran a 6'7", but I want to run a 6'5", a 60, you know, I'm a catcher. Oh, I had a 195. I want to get to 190. I want to get to 185. So there's always new levels and new peaks to reach. So I think it's built in you to say, oh, wow, you know, building again, that confidence, building that skill and doing the things consistently and doing them right over and over and over again. Eventually, I mean, you just build this level of confidence that no one else can take from you.
Amen.
You know, and it's not that when you start achieving these things at really high levels, it's not to say, oh, wow, you know, he made that look really easy. It's because, well, you made it look easy because you became so good at it. That's actually really hard what you're doing. Now, take that into entrepreneurship. It's the same thing. You're isolated. Only you can know, because it requires, no one's telling you what to do. No one's telling you how to do it.
That's the toughest part.
It's only something that you can understand by doing.
Yes.
And at first it feels like, well, it's imposter syndrome. You have like an imposter syndrome because it's like, do I belong? I don't know what I'm doing. But the truth of the matter is, every entrepreneurship that when they start, that is the case. Like it's having a level of confidence behind you to double down and say, you know, build the skill, build the confidence, and isolate yourself. And just every single day you'll get better. And if you stay consistent in your pursuit, eventually you'll find success as an entrepreneur. And I think I learned a lot about that. My dad, he's an entrepreneur. He has his own business. So I learned at an early age with him and kind of helping him out and doing a little bit of work with him. But then where I really gained a lot of confidence to dive into entrepreneurship is my fiance. Arlie Banner, she has her own talent agency.
Nice.
Arlie Banner Collab talent agency. So any influencer out there, she does some really amazing work, makes some really good connections, and she's a grinder. She works 12 hours a day, at least 6 days a week. She's working right now. I know she'll be working tonight until 8 or 9, and she'll be doing it again on Saturday and Sunday. And I think after building my relationship with her, I saw how committed she was. That was very similar to the way we were committed to the game. And then it made me feel like, you know, we would, in the time that she's not working, we talk about what's going on with her business, you know, and stuff, and how she conquers, you know, stuff that's difficult, how she beats adversity. And she says all the time, you know, it's an ever learning process. And the reason why she's been a successful entrepreneur is because she is just consistent in her pursuit every single day. And she's building that confidence. So I learned from her. And that's kind of how my journey started with entrepreneurship, which is still very new.
That's crazy. You are the walking epitome of proximity law. Like just being in the right area with the right people, and how that can elevate you. And like you guys, all the viewers and the watchers who are going to see that, you need to understand how your surroundings really do make a big difference into what's going on in your life, the way you think, the way you view life. He is a prime example of everything that he has achieved has been almost from or born because of the law of proximity, being around the right people. Now, since you've already gotten into the entrepreneurship, what was your entrepreneurial idea? What was it that you decided to open the business, the name, everything? How did we even get to that point?
Yeah, so it was a couple years ago, actually, over 2 years ago at this point. Pickleball is it's not a brand new game, but it's new to the masses.
Yes, for sure.
It just recently reached a level of popularity that now it's becoming mainstream. And my future mother-in-law, she is a pickleball fanatic. She loves playing pickleball.
That's what's up.
She plays at least 4 or 5 days a week. So I started by playing, with her for fun. And then one day, one of my roommates from college, who was also a baseball player, his name's Justin Caccino, he reached out to me and he asked me, my thoughts about, how to even start, let's say, a brand. And I believe he asked me a question about trademarks. That's kind of how it started. He was asking me about like intellectual property law. It's not really a field that I know because I didn't practice it, but I knew from law school a little bit about it. So then we had a conversation and then he was like, oh, maybe you can help out with this. I'm doing this with my friend that he grew up with, Nick Reisman, whose idea it originally came from. And then it just became a coalition of friends where I then brought in one of my closest friends, one of my best friends, Justin Lewis, who is also an entrepreneur, former Division I soccer player. And again, same mentality. Justin Lewis, he helped bring like a good energy to kind of help, bring this to life. And he runs his own creative agency, at Harbor 9, and he's killing it. And he brings that same mentality of athlete into entrepreneurship. So it kind of started there of just like having an idea from seed and then just working with your friends to really double down and say, okay, maybe we can make something from this. And I think where the idea came from was there was a hole in the market. In pickleball, people were playing the sport, but there's no real apparel brand out there that specifically sells clothes for pickleball that markets themselves as a pickleball brand.
Yes, I can.
So, you'll have Nike or, Lululemon that will say, oh, these are pickleball clothes, but no, we have, advertised it as we are a pickleball apparel brand first. So that's how it started. It was a hole in the market. And, we came up with the name together, Dapper Dink. Anyone that knows pickleball, like the terminology, dink is a common term that's used to, hit the ball over the net with the soft touch. And then dapper, obviously, dapper is like being well dressed. So the name went well together for Dapper Dink. And that was 2 years ago. We came up with the name. And yeah, these are just some of the clothes that we have, some of the hats that we have.
Some quality shirts too.
Yeah, I mean, and we've gone through a lot. We've worked with the designer. We've worked with many manufacturers. We've gone back and forth on the design process to kind of come up with something that could fill a void in the market. And that's where we are today, so we're focusing on apparel first and stuff that you could wear on the court. And then we're also right now building out the line that you could wear off the court. So we'll have some polos that are right now being mass produced. We have some amazing shorts that you could wear on the court. So we'll have a full pro kit. That's what we're calling it, a pro kit. So you could wear it as a matching set. So we're trying to bring like an aura and an ambiance to the game, to the sport that has never been seen before, because pickleball is still brand new. And we're creating our own lane in it and in paving the way. So that's exactly what we're doing. Now we've been doing it and it's grown. So we've built a community. And it's just still continuing to grow day by day.
I love that.
One thing.
No, you good. Shout out the name again, where people could find you. Everything. Shout out your whole thing.
Yeah. So Dapper Dink, you could find us. We're very big on LinkedIn. You could see us on LinkedIn. We have a lot of activity there. You could also follow us on Instagram. It's at Dapper Dink. So it's DapperDink. Same thing for our TikTok. It's also Dapper Dink. And we haven't officially launched our e-commerce site. And that's just because, we're waiting for the rest of this gear to come in because we put so much time into it.
For sure.
But we do have our pre-sale link for new, first comers. So it's like, if you want to, you can go and check us out. We have a pre-sale link that's live. It's live on our Instagram. It's also live on our LinkedIn. So you could go sign up. We'll have updates when it comes to that. But yeah, we have some of the best stuff. We have amazing content. And we're making a lot of noise in the industry. I think a lot of people have been reaching out, asking us to, come out to shows, get some of our merch. So we're really excited because we're trying to bring a different aura to the game and to the sport, and just create something that's really new. So pickleball is an exciting sport. It's very easy to play. At least to pick up and start, it's easy to play. And I think that's what makes it exciting for people. So we're just having a good time with it. And it's been amazing to kind of build something from the ground up, which is a new feat that I've never faced before, is taking something where, ground up is it's the best thing ever. So we're learning as we go every single day.
Yes.
Yeah, there's so many things to highlight. I mean, first off, like just the fact that like you're somebody that once you have your mind set to something, it's gonna happen. So whether e-commerce store, like everything you're saying, I'm like, I could already see that happening. Like Zach's already gonna make that happen. And then we'll definitely add the links below in the comments.
Yeah, appreciate it.
We'll add all of those links, everything, so that it's easy for you guys to find it. We're gonna make it as seamless as possible. We're also gonna leave Zach's Instagram and stuff, so you can follow him if he feels like you want, he wants to leave that stuff. But anything that has to do with Dapper Dink, we're gonna leave all of that in the bio. We're gonna link, tag everything. So.
Yeah, please give us a follow because we have exciting stuff coming down the pipeline. And again, like I said, we have some of the best content out there, and we're bringing a different energy to the sport. So it's an athlete energy, which I think the sport could use right now, is like a different flair, like that bravado. So we're excited to bring that with Dapper Dink. And we put a lot into it. We spent time in the design process, worked with people, and we're trying to perfect it and be as best as we can for the lovers of the sport, and for anybody that just needs a fit for first time. If they want to go get out there and play for the first time, we got you too. So
I love that. And to wrap it up, to get into the last question that I feel like it is going to be, personally, I think it's the most important question to ask you. If you could talk to the younger generation, or if you could talk to our current generation, the people that are coming up, what is something or a piece of advice that you can tell them or give them to help prepare them for a life after baseball, to help prepare them to know that they have skill sets, they have talents outside of the sport they're playing, because we all know that it's a ticking clock, even for the people in the major leagues, it's a ticking clock. What is one piece of advice that you can give to the next generation going forward to help with this life after baseball, that transition, and seeing how you can take the things that you learned on the field and transition them off the field?
Well, first, before I answer the question, I think it's the best question, and thank you guys for this podcast, because there's nothing out there like that, like this right now. And I think it's important to highlight people who didn't make it, right? And I say that in quotation marks because we still made it. We still made it. So playing in the MLB, sure, of course, that's like the typical definition, but everyone's definition of success is subjective.
Very true.
There's no, it's all subjective. Everyone's going to have a different, feeling of, oh, wow, I've been successful in my life.
Yes.
So I think for the youth and the generation, it's important to highlight that it doesn't have to be cookie cutter, or it doesn't have to be one way. You can make your own lane and be very successful, and take the tools that you had from baseball, or any sport for that matter, but specifically for baseball, and those lifelong lessons that you built as a young kid, growing up as a young adult, and take it to anything that you're doing in present day. But I would say that some piece of advice that's really important for the youth and the young generation is understanding how to be present. Right. And what I mean by that is being present in your life. We live in a society where, with social media and just in a fast-paced environment, that you're always on to the next thing.
Yes.
You're always looking to say, oh, but I can't wait to get to college. I can't wait to play college ball, or, oh, I can't wait until I'm at this stage in my career as an entrepreneur, or I can't wait to, finish law school and then finally be a licensed attorney, because in that whole process, you forget to be present. And when you're present, there's so much to learn because it doesn't matter what you're doing in any part of your life, be present, because you can take a valuable lesson and apply it later on. So I always find myself, I just learned that very recently. I just learned that within the last 5 years. I think I was always looking to say, well, I can't wait until this, and wishing your life away is the worst thing possible because it's true. And I think it's a flawed system in part because of this, the social media and what we see. You see everyone has a highlight reel. Yes. So all you see is, highlight reel after highlight reel of people posting, and, it might make you feel inadequate or that you might actually be failing, when in reality, in your pursuit to greatness, that one little moment of 30 seconds of euphoria, of rounding the bases after hitting a home run or passing the bar exam, that's just the moment in the pursuit of being consistent and present in your daily life. That's what builds those moments. So I would say for the youth and the young generation and anyone who's out there, and if you're ever doubting yourself, just be consistent and show up every single day and be present every single day, because you can't be great at something unless you're fully committed in that moment. So if you're not committed and you're not present, then success could pass you by or you may not even reach it. As an entrepreneur, how can you look on to, the next phase of your business when you haven't conquered the present phase? How can you have a podcast and expect it, to have 10,000 views when you haven't hit 1,000 views? Yep. So being present and just saying, no, I just need to be great in this moment, because again, like I said earlier, building confidence, that comes from doing the little things right over and over and over again, and just being consistent about it. And eventually when you look back after years of being consistent and also being present while you're chasing, your own greatness, that's where it's built. That's where success is built. That's what I would tell, the youth and the young generation is just be the best that you can be today, because tomorrow will take care of itself if you do that.
Love that.
Bro,
that was
amazing. You can't end it better than that. I mean,
Amazing.
I'm inspired. I'll be honest, I know JP's inspired. I'm inspired, from your story.
I appreciate it.
How far you came. I could definitely relate to a lot of things, that you spoke about. And I know a lot of people who are watching this are definitely going to relate. But yeah, listen, just to kind of wrap this up, I just want to shout out our sponsors, Dapper Dink. Also, Wealthy Off Credit, which is a great consulting brand helping entrepreneurs grow their business using the bank's money and not having to use their own cash. We got anything, Jay?
No, the only thing that I want to say is, first off, I want to thank our guest, Zac, for an amazing interview. I want to thank him for the insight, the knowledge, the raw vulnerability that you gave today, because, it's not very easy for people to talk about, their personal life, or, even sometimes shortcomings, or what we might quote unquote see as failures. Just being comfortable enough and being open enough to put out a message out there that can help inspire another kid who might be in your situation. So as always, guys, this is Life After Baseball. This is the only show out here that is highlighting people who didn't make it in their respective lane, but they made it in life. We, along with the guests that we are going to be providing and be bringing you in the level of conversation, you are going to see that you can go from dugouts to deals,
or from cleats to clients.
This is Life After Baseball, and we'll see you on the next one.
Let's go.